So good morning and thank you for joining the BetMakers Technology Group Limited August Investor Webinar. I'm Jane Morgan, the Investor and Media Relations Manager. On Monday, we released our August investor presentation, which we'll run through today. To ask a question throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So today I am joined by BetMakers CEO Todd Buckingham, our CFO Anthony Pullin, and our COO Jake Henson. We'll be providing you with an overview of the presentation. Todd, I'll pass over to you.
Thanks, Jane, and thanks very much everyone for joining us in our latest investor presentation to discuss our FY21 results, along with our next phase of growth for BetMakers. It's always good to look back each year on our achievements and understand how far the company has come in a very short space of time. For all you investors that have been along the journey, in particular the last few years, we have obviously had a fantastic result with the share price climb 25 times from where it was in June. The company has come in broadening its valuation we've now achieved. Joining me today, we've got Anthony Pullin, our CFO, and Jake Henson, our COO, who will be assisting me running through the presentation. So a quick recap, obviously a lot of people would understand BetMakers and where we fit into the ecosystem, but just to give everybody a clear understanding, obviously we sit in the middle of the racing ecosystem between the wagering operator and the racing bodies or the rights holders. We provide a whole range of services, important services to both parties across digital wagering platforms, global tote or parimutuel services. We provide all the data and analytics for operators. And then we provide a range of services like managed trading services, integrity solutions. BetMakers operate in a very regulated market. We now hold some 45 wagering and gaming licenses globally. The board and its key officers have passed probity in some of the most stringent, heavily regulated jurisdictions around the world. Our customers that operate in these regulated markets, they include commercial B2C operators, regulators and casinos and racetracks across the United States, Europe, Asia, United Kingdom, and also Australia. The company now has a global footprint. As you can see, we're in some 30 countries now, operating with over 55 online wagering operators, more than 225 racing partners around the world. That's casinos, racetracks, online operators, regulators globally. We have 45, as I mentioned, we've got over 45 regulatory licenses globally, almost 400 employees now across 10 offices around the world. We've grown significantly in the last 2 years, and obviously it's a substantial global footprint that BetMakers now holds. Our key team that we've been able to build and establish in recent years, I believe is the best in the market. Our board sits with Nick Chan, Matt Davey, Simon Delhunty and myself. We've got some really key advisors who have got extreme experience in the industry with Matt Tripp and Paul Batar. And then the underlying executive team headed up by Jake Henson and Anthony Pullin, our technical team, Carl Begg and Oliver Shanahan. And then recently that's come on as Sam Adams as our Chief Legal Officer and Martin Tripp as Head of Product. So I'll hand over to Anthony now, who'll give an overview of our financial report for FY21.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Look, we're very pleased to present our results to you all today for FY21. Running through them, revenue of 19.5 million, which is up 127% on the prior year. We've also seen really good continued growth throughout the year. Second half revenue was up 56% on the first half, as well as 161% on the corresponding period in the prior year. Much of this growth has been driven by our Australian operations, where we're seeing continued interest and expansion in our platform and managed trading services offering, as well as our international content distribution business. As I'm sure most of our listeners today are aware, we completed the Sportech acquisition, the acquisition of the Sportech Racing and Digital assets on the 17th of June. Therefore, our FY21 figures reflect about 2 weeks of contribution from these assets. Putting that in revenue terms, it's about $2 million. We're currently working on a number of really exciting opportunities, not least of which is fixed odds horse racing in New Jersey. So during FY21, we were actively investing in additional resources to put the company in the best possible position to take advantage of these opportunities. For FY21, we reported an adjusted EBITDA loss of approximately 2.9 million, which includes approximately 2.4 million of costs related to the US market development. We finished the financial year with 120 million in cash in the balance sheet and no debt, once again putting us in a really strong position to execute on our strategy going forward. Just in the bottom left there of the slide, to give you an update on where the business is currently trading, based on July figures, business is on a run rate in excess of $70 million in annual revenue. Todd, if you want to jump to the next one. Here, I'll leave it to Jake to run you through these divisions in greater detail later in the presentation. But as a brief introduction, going forward, we'll be reporting across these three division lines. We've got Global Betting Services, which was formerly the Wholesale Wagering Products segment. We've got Global Racing Network, which was formerly Content and Integrity. And we've got Global Tote, which reflects our tote operations of the business. Here, we've simply broken down the revenue and the growth across these three divisions. We've seen really good, strong growth across all three. In particular, the GBS division, which captures our platform and MTS operations. With the launch of fixed odds in New Jersey, hopefully in the short-term future, this will all be captured through the GRN segment. And so hopefully we'll see some continued strong growth there over the next year and beyond. And the Global Tote segment, the blue one there at the top, that reflects 2 weeks of owning US and European tote operations. I'll now pass to Jake to run you through these core divisions in a little bit more detail.
Thank you, Anthony. And as you've touched on, we've consolidated our products and services into those three global divisions that we'll use as pillars of the business moving forward. So I'll start with Global Betting Services. These are essentially B2B products built for and servicing customers who interact with other customers on a B2C basis or a B2C level, covering our global platforms and applications, as well as the back-end data services that are integral to the racing wagering ecosystem, things like race day controls, event lifecycle information and pricing. Our managed trading services and bespoke fixed pricing also fits into this pillar, as well as the racing form content and statistical information. Examples of customers who would fall into this bracket would be a wagering operator such as PointsBet, a media partner such as racing.com, and an aggregator and affiliate like the TomWaterhouse.com mobile application. The Global Tote business, as you've touched on, is a consolidated Sportech digital and racing assets combined with some of the internal proprietary technology from the BetMakers side. The Quantum Tote engine from the Sportech racing assets came across, as did the hosting, commingling and point of sale technology. That Quantum Tote currently processes around about $15 billion in handle annually. Examples of customers within this division, the UK Tote Group, Penn Gaming, the racetracks, Dankespiel, the Danish lottery company, and the Hong Kong Jockey Club. Moving on to Global Racing Network. The GRN is our one-stop shop of racing data, content, and integrity services. We act as the intermediary between regulators, rights holders, and racing bodies, and their interaction with the wagering operators. Race day controls, streaming, official price network, reporting services, and integrity, these all fall into this bracket. And as Anthony touched on, the fixed odds opportunity managing within New Jersey market would fall into this particular division, as would partnerships with the likes of SIS and Racecourse Media Group, which we announced in the previous financial year, and the integrity services we provide someone like Racing Victoria. So just a quick snapshot of some of the highlights of these businesses. So the GBS business, we have 9 betting clients now live in Australia and 23 US ADW customers, and around about 25 price management customers globally. The event lifecycle and pricing services now cover over 250,000 races annually. On the tote side, we host we have 130 hosting and service contracts and over 145 pooling and commingling contracts. That's coupled with our terminal and point of sale deployment around the world, which at the moment stands at around 29,000 wagering and betting terminals. The global racing network is now connected with 36 countries around the world, which results in around about 300 racing wagering partners and brands. And of course, the opportunity to roll out fixed odds within the New Jersey market that will sit within here, and obviously the new relationships we form with not only operators, but content providers who will be looking to get their content into that market. And on that note, I'll hand back to Todd, who will cover off in a little bit more detail around the strategic plan for FY22.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Obviously, a very good result for us in FY21, establishing ourselves, getting a very good base, and we're ready for a real step change in the business, both from a financial metrics point of view, but also from a global footprint point of view. So we're looking to expand into and accelerate the business. To do that, we've got some key things that we're doing for each one of those segments: global betting services, global tote, and also the GRN Global Racing Network. But at the top of the page here, you'll see 4 key areas that we're really looking to concentrate on for FY22. So exploration of inorganic growth opportunities through acquisitions and partnerships. We recently announced a couple of deals. We bought a business called Form Cruncher, and we also bought another business called Swapstakes. Both of those were bought for addition to our existing platform and for further engagement with the customers on that platform. And we'll be looking and continuing to look for opportunities that we can add into our network and broaden either our product suite or our customer base or our exposure to global markets. We'll have increased focus on penetrating the US market. We have announced, obviously, the fixed odds deal in New Jersey. We see that as a really important piece, along with our acquisition of the assets within that US market, so both digital and land-based. We're going to focus on expanding that customer base into more products. We're bringing in new technology, which we're quite excited about in terms of the terminals that sit in that US market. And from a digital point of view, we see some real upside there with the sports bookmakers that are in that jurisdiction now. So adding our products onto those platforms will be a key focus for us in 2022. The land and expand strategy across all of our customers, our existing customers. That strategy is around taking our existing customers that we've got and expanding our product suite onto those customers. So a lot of the business that we bought in terms of Sportech acquisition, we might be selling 1 or 2 products to those customers. We'll be looking to expand that to sell 4 to 5 products to each of those customers, connecting them in globally into different jurisdictions. We'd also, one of our key focuses is on continued investment in our BetMakers global resource and technology. So getting the right people on the team, and also developing our technology and capitalizing on the opportunities that are presented to us. One of the key areas that obviously will be of quite interest to a lot of people on this call is our US opportunity update, US opportunity in terms of New Jersey. And we'd like to update you on that. Look, New Jersey is something that we've been working on for the last 18 months. We've been working really closely with Monmouth Park, the racetrack, been working really closely with the New Jersey Horsemen to get the right model for New Jersey. And by introducing fixed odds into that, we want to make sure that we've got a sustainable model that'll be rolled out across New Jersey without affecting or benefiting, the horsemen and the racetrack there. So we've been able to move through that legislative process. The governor signed a bill authorising fixed odds betting in New Jersey. The model as well that we've been working closely with Monmouth Park on is ensuring that they get control of their signal and any signals that are coming into New Jersey, which means any betting on fixed odds in New Jersey will be controlled by Monmouth Park. And as such, BetMakers, who are their agent and partner over the next 10 years. That process now has moved on to the regulators who are forming the rules. As we understand it, the rules have been implemented or are ready to go and at the final stage. And they will obviously come out over the next month or two. And once that happens, then we'll be able to roll out fixed odds into the New Jersey market. A lot of questions are coming through in regards to when and how fixed odds will roll out in New Jersey. Initially, it'll be done at Monmouth Park. We've done the technology integration at the track, so we're ready to go. As soon as the approval comes through, then we'll be able to start taking fixed odds bets at the track at Monmouth Park. And that's not just on Monmouth Park races, but that's on any tracks that would like to offer their product into the New Jersey market. We've announced a number of tracks that are already on board to go into New Jersey. We're also working with a lot of rights holders and track owners that would like to be a part of this process as well in New Jersey. And it's a really exciting time for us. After that, there'll be online operators. We've announced our deal with PointsBet. PointsBet are in the stage of integrating to get ready to start taking online bets in New Jersey on horse racing. And after that, there'll be a number of other operators that will be offering fixed odds betting on horse racing in New Jersey. So thanks very much for listening in. I know we've got a whole range of questions that are coming in, so it's probably a good time for us to take those questions, Jane, and obviously.
So first up, this is probably one for you, Anthony. So we've announced an FY 2022 update with the July annualized revenue run rate in excess of 17 million per year. Can you walk us through this number?
Yeah, sure. I guess first of all, the 70 million is just an extrapolation of the July revenues multiplied by 12 to give an indication for the year. The makeup of that is, based on July, is approximately 2/3 from our tote operations across the Northern Hemisphere in the US and UK and Europe, about 1/3 from our Australian operations. In terms of putting forward that number, we don't see too much seasonality in it, and it's based on the current deals that we have in the market at the moment, and hopefully we can see some good growth on that number as the year progresses.
Perfect. Probably one for you, Jake. So one of our shareholders would like to know if BetMakers has a plan to release the dynamic odds app on a mobile so people can use their product while not sitting at a computer or a laptop.
Yeah, so this particular project is under development currently, and we expect to roll that out throughout the Spring Carnival, coupled with some of the new technology we've developed in the last 12 months around the Tom Waterhouse app and a few other things we're pretty keen to unveil in that space around the digital betting experience.
Perfect. There's another one that's just come through. So this one's probably for you, Todd. So given the recent changes to fixed odds betting on thoroughbred horse racing in New Jersey, can you provide some color on what the timing and rollout plan might look like?
Yeah, as I just mentioned, the rollout plan is to go live at Monmouth Park. We're in the hands of the regulator, who's working closely with Monmouth and the Horseman Group to get the regulations out. Once that goes live, then we'll be live on course, and then it'll be a case then of rolling out across the online operators. We expect to see a number of operators go live before the end of the year, but really sort of ramp up in the first half of calendar year next year.
Toddy, just on that then, so what other wagering operators have signed on for fixed odds betting in New Jersey?
We've got PointsBet that have announced that they've signed. We're in discussions with all of the operators that are in, or we're keen to talk to all of the operators that are in New Jersey. There's about 30 to 33 online operators in New Jersey, but there's also a whole range of casinos as well, and ADWs that would be keen to obviously participate in fixed odds betting on horse racing.
Okay, another one's come through. So we've mentioned the strategic focus is across the 3 divisions of the business, and we have roughly 120 mil in the bank. What's the strategy for growth?
Yeah, this is, concentrating on our existing customers and investing in technology. That's both from an online digital point of view, but also in the terminals. We've got a number of terminals that are globally placed. We've got a lot of terminals in the US as well. Our new terminal range comes out towards the back end of this year. We're really excited about that, and being able to invest in that technology will allow us to extend and lengthen contracts and convert contracts into a bigger revenue stream for BetMakers as well. So we'll have an investment in technology. We're also looking at any types of partnerships and acquisitions that are on the table that fit into our business and will be accretive for shareholders.
There's been a few questions about potential acquisitions. So is there anything in the wings?
We've been presented with a number of opportunities which we're looking at. We haven't done anything as yet. So we have only just recently completed not only Sportech but 2 other acquisitions in Swap Stakes and Form Cruncher. So at this stage, there's nothing immediately, but we're obviously keeping our eye on everything that's going on.
Okay, Anthony, probably one for you. So could you please provide some insight on the seasonality of the sports tech 2 mil revenue? Is this seasonal or a good indication of the current run rate we should expect?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good indication of what to expect. When we first announced the acquisition back on 1st of December, we sort of put Sportech or revenue indications for these assets out to the market at around about 47, 48 million a year. So around about 2 million for the 2 weeks of acquisition or of ownership is about right. So I don't think there's too much seasonality within that.
Jake, this one might be for you. So who do you see as your major competitors, and who are you keeping a close eye on to stay ahead of?
Yeah, so we've had a few questions around that, and I guess our core competencies and competitive advantage. Certainly as a business, we're keeping abreast of everything that's moving in the racing space specifically. I would say even more so than that, just generally in technology, in terms of how things are presented to customers, how transactions are processed, how data is stored, etc. From I guess a business standpoint, our focus is certainly on growing the pie as opposed to competing over the same patch. And I think that will stem down to some of the partnerships we strike with people who would be perceived as competitors traditionally, where we think obviously there's an opportunity to align with those people already in the industry and grow things forward. So certainly that's an internal focus is obviously to focus on the growth markets and achieving more growth in existing and regulated markets, and doing so, partnering with someone who might be perceived as a competitor, but we can see an advantage in teaming together and applying our broad product range to what they can bring to the table as well.
Thank you. There's been quite a few questions just about the next states that are probably going to drop in the US.
Yeah, I think it's an important one to look at with that last slide in our deck in regards to how sports betting rolled out. Obviously, it went to New Jersey first. They went into the New Jersey market, and 2 years later, took over 2 years, is now in 30 odd states around the US. So while we're concentrating heavily on New Jersey and making sure we get that right, we see this as a rollout similar to how sports betting has rolled out previously, and so it'll probably follow that same trend we expect.
Thank you. Sorry, there's quite a few coming through. I'm just making sure we don't miss anything. So we've talked about the new technology to be implemented in the sports tech business. Can we talk about the costs involved here? What additional functionality will be implemented to either enhance the user experience or the product set, and the timing for deployment?
Yeah, so I'll speak to part one of that. Certainly from a business standpoint, what we've developed from a software side of things is obviously quite cost effective to deploy at scale. Most of the costs that we'll incur in terms of increasing the technology base will be centered around hardware. And that's certainly an investment that we'll make around point of sale technology to improve the capability to deliver more products through that vertical. At the moment, of those 29,000 terminals, they're somewhat limited in terms of the product and the different offerings that they can deliver through there. So a key thing for us is obviously to upgrade them to a stage in which we can rapidly deploy new product, new bet types, etc. And from a finance point of view, Anthony, I'm not sure if you've got anything to add to that, but certainly the software is very scalable from a cost point of view.
Yeah, correct. Look, yeah, and on the hardware piece, we'll definitely be investing in that, as Jake said, in the upcoming year. As at today, I'd be guessing somewhere between 5 to 10 million of capex investment. But the US being a new market, as Jake said, the new hardware technology being I guess a new stream for ourselves, we'll put that into the market, learn, I guess, live and learn with it, and then refine our capex investment expectations from there.
Thanks for that. Todd, one for you. There's quite a few questions coming up about Tabcorp. Do you want to maybe just comment on that and what the next steps are?
Yeah, as everyone would probably know, BetMakers was one of 3 bidders for the Tabcorp business when there was a bit of uncertainty as to how that asset would have eventually come out. Tabcorp rejected all those bids, and BetMakers, we've always said that we're really confident with our existing business and where we're heading, and the tie-in with Tabcorp was around some products that they have in their business that is complementary and would fit into, we think that really should be more a wholesale offering. We still feel that, and we're still in discussions with Tab in regards to that and how that would look. Obviously, they're under their business is doing a demerger with their lotteries business, so obviously they're focused on a whole range of things at the moment. While BetMakers is just going to concentrate on getting on with all the opportunities that we've got in front of us as well. And we're still obviously got an interest in those assets, and at the right time, if the opportunity comes up, we'd certainly be interested in working with them.
There's just a few more that's come through. So is there an opportunity to apply fixed odds betting to other sports in the US market? And if so, is this being considered?
Yeah, I can take that one. So obviously the development of and the rollout of fixed odds betting in the United States has basically gone from one legalized state to around about 30 in 2.5 years, of which throughout that, there's obviously a customer journey of education around the bet type and how that's communicated to customers. And the exciting opportunity for racing is that that's a new customer, someone who's not traditionally interacted with the sport. And we see a big part of that growth in the US market is tapping into the digital market, and those two are currently betting with a PointsBet or a DraftKings, and presenting racing in a way that hasn't been presented to consumers in the US previously. So certainly how that bet type interacts with traditional sports bets in that market, and how that product can be displayed, I think is key to growth and tapping into new revenue streams and customers.
There's a few questions about the fixed odds and distribution deal in Jamaica. Jake, maybe one for you, or?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of deals in the last 12 months that center around the same principles here of a full service offering for a racetrack. That's stemming from reporting and integrity services to what we can help out on the track by our official price, race day controls, the deployment of race day screens, and then the end product as you develop that racetrack experience. Obviously, you end up with data that you can then commercialize internationally. So Jamaica is a good example of that. And in recent times, we've partnered with Kentucky Downs and a few other tracks to do something similar, where we're basically looking to do a full service distribution schedule for these guys, from streaming to tote commingling and fixed odds distribution. The Jamaican opportunity is progressing really well, and we've already worked with those guys on the fixed odds distribution side. And we look forward to explaining a little bit more around this strategy with some of the tracks we're partnering with in the near future.
Todd, probably one for you to comment on. There's quite a few questions coming through about Matt Tripp and his involvement. Do you want to maybe just comment on that?
Yeah, certainly. Matt's been a really strong advocate of BetMakers, and he signed on with us after he did an investment in the business to put his money in. We've structured a deal around being able to bring commercial deals to us that would turbocharge the business, I suppose, and accelerate where we sit. He's brought a number of deals to us, some of which are still active and we're working through, and he'll continue to do that. So Matt's one being a big supporter of ours, but also he's there to commercially bring in deals. At this stage, we haven't closed any, obviously. He worked with us on the Tabcorp acquisition proposal, which obviously didn't go ahead, but we are working on a number of other deals that we expect to develop over the next 12 months.
Okay, last one I think we've got is, so given we can't be on the ground overseas with sports tech, have we found any surprises with the business since we took control of it?
Yeah, so I'll start with that one, Todd. So as a whole, we've been obviously pleasantly surprised with the internal culture in terms of how many passionate racing people exist with that business that really fit into the mold of BetMakers and what we're trying to achieve in terms of growing the returns for all stakeholders. Certainly the restrictions have been not ideal, but there's also a considerable amount of leadership within that US-based sport tech team that is now coming across to the BetMakers leadership team and leadership structures, some of which we'll announce in coming weeks. So in terms of obviously physically being there, certainly the three of us have clocked up our fair share of Zoom hours over the last 12 months. But there's also some very capable people on the ground already who have bought into the BetMakers goal and vision and are starting to deliver that message across to their team. So we couldn't really be happier with the team that we've inherited there, and really look forward to bringing them on the journey.
Just the last one, Todd, probably for you. So what can shareholders look forward to in the next sort of 3 to 6 months?
I think more of the same. We're going to bring out more products. We're going to put on more customers. We've obviously got the big ticket items like the New Jersey fixed odds going live. So there's a whole range of things that we're continuing to work on, but really exciting times here at BetMakers for the business and obviously for shareholders as well, who have benefited out of the long sustainable growth that we've had over the last couple of years. So thank you to the shareholders that have stuck with us, and obviously there's been up and downs, but it's been a great journey, and we're glad you stuck with us.
Well, I think that's all we've got time for today. So thank you everyone for joining the BetMakers August investor webinar. Should we have missed any questions, please feel free to reach out via the contact details on the bottom of our ASX releases. And we look forward to updating you in the coming weeks.